I wanted to make a bit more of a long-form video today, talking about a subject that I find very dangerous that's going on right now. Something that is happening in the world that I find it dangerous, and I wanted to make a little longer form video on it. See if I can maybe do minimal edits on this, or maybe none at all, if I get lucky. And that is to talk about this overstimulated culture we have in the world. This stuff being hyperstimulated and overstimulated, of whether that be from video games, whether that be movies, TV shows, food, pornography, anime, even, I guess you'd say, fantasy novels and books could be this to an extent, but not as much. The VR realm especially is what we're getting into now. And it's the problem that comes when stuff is so hyperstimulated, so advanced, that you can get this sort of reward and these sorts of achievements from doing absolutely nothing. You need to put no effort into it, and you can have everything. See, video games play on this with being able to be anyone you want, have any skill set you want, go to any country you want, be able to save the world with no training, no effort, no nothing put in. You simply turn it on, you download the game, and all of a sudden you've had 10 years of military training and you're a special forces soldier saving the world. For entertainment, the stuff, you can look at it and say it isn't bad. You can say, oh, this stuff's just for fun. You can use it for calming down. You can use it for, just relaxing after a hard day's work. But that's not what people are doing with it. That's not what you're doing with it. It's not what I did with it. You use these things, and I use these things, as ways to escape reality, as ways to get rewards without being deserving of them. Instead of actually improving your own life and getting a better job, getting friends, doing things, to improve your own health and wellness and your mind, learning things, you could just play a video game and you would have all that like that. You could watch a movie, and even in an extent you could watch a documentary on something and think, well, I know all this knowledge right now. I'm an expert on this subject. And when in reality you just heard someone else's years and years of research and effort. But you convince yourself that now it somehow made you a better person just knowing it. This trap can be easy to fall into on YouTube, where you'll just click from one video to the next about subjects you didn't care about, but all of a sudden you think it's important to know, how the drug cartels are being run in Mexico, and here's this hour-and-a-half documentary you watched instead of getting sleep. Now, I know this is probably coming off as being a bit cynical right off the bat, but here's the issue that is coming from this. Some of these things aren't bad per se, but it's getting to a point when people are living for these things. It's getting to a point when people no longer want relationships because they can just watch pornography, and they can have the most beautiful woman they want at their fingertips like that. No effort, no improvement. You can look like a slob, you can have poor health and hygiene, you can have no money, and you can have the most beautiful woman right in front of you. And you can be fulfilled for a split second until reality kicks back in. But when that happens, you'll just go to your video games. You'll just go to another form of media, or you go to more pornography. And it's this trap of always looking for another stimulant that can fulfill you with no effort put in. Because these stimulants drain you, and they drain your time, they drain your energy, your effort into doing other things. You're putting into just hours upon hours of mindless entertainment, instead of putting that time into something that could actually benefit another human being. Instead of doing something real, you're entertaining yourself. You're just having fun, like a child that doesn't want to grow up. And I think this stage can happen, this gets implemented during the teenage years especially, when you don't make that transition from being a teenager to being an adult. where nowadays, growing up with the internet, this is like the first generation or first two generations that are having these issues, I believe, where instead of transitioning from being a teenager and being entertained by things, being a child, having fun with toys and playing toy soldier, in the forest, now people are doing that to such an extreme with, again, these hyperstimulants, with VR nowadays and video games, and even going into the pornographic realm with that, where you don't need to do anything, and you can have this stuff almost exactly like reality. Like, VR is getting so good to the point where it could fool people into thinking it's real soon enough. And back then, there were movies, but they were black and white, they had no sound, and then eventually they got better, they got color, they got sound. Things started improving, starting to get closer and closer to real life. And the more that's happening, the less people are desiring the real thing. Because all of a sudden it can't match up. The fake version is becoming so close, and it's becoming so easily accessible. Why would you put effort into the real thing? That happens with food. A lot of people are satisfied enough getting a hamburger from McDonald's where they won't put the effort into making the hamburger themselves. While, yes, I'm pretty sure everyone will agree that a homemade hamburger or homemade food tastes so much better than fast food. But so many people are still willing to go to fast food because it's so much easier. And they don't want to put in the time or effort into making the food themselves. And the better and better that fast food can get to imitating, something gourmet, the lesser and lesser people are going to want that gourmet thing. Want the thing that is actually real. And that same way with reality. The more and more that you can be, subjected to these fake versions of real things, the less and less you'll want to put in the effort to get the real thing. And the more and more you'll be willing to, just be satisfied with whatever authority tells you to do. With a job, people are just satisfied doing whatever because they're just getting paid enough. They're getting paid enough to survive, so they don't need a raise because, well, I'm getting paid enough. They have no desire to go further, and it may not seem like a huge problem immediately, but years down the line, infrastructure is going to fall apart when there's no one doing anything anymore. When nobody wants to put into conscious effort. Right now, stuff is built off the backs of people who have lived without these addictions. But the current generation is being raised with these addictions where they're not doing things anymore. They're not putting the effort into getting a man doesn't care about making enough money to support a family because he can just watch pornography like that. And he doesn't have to put any effort into taking care of actual kids, taking care of an actual person. He can just boot it up on his computer and just watch it and, be in his fantasy world for a few minutes. And so he won't put in the effort to get a job that pays enough to support a real family, to improve himself, to be a kind and interesting enough person, to do enough things in life to make, an actual woman excited to be around him, to be willing to give his life to another person enough. And I'm talking about this more from the male standpoint, but this can happen to women too. And it's a problem that in years to come is going to really come back to bite people, because you can only live off your parents' success so much, and eventually they're going to die, and eventually you're going to be on your own. And if you haven't learned to care for yourself while they were around, while you could take a risk, it's like while your parents are alive, you can take a risk. You can move out, you can try to go to college, you can, always have that security of, okay, I can fall back on my parents if this fails. But it gets to a point when you can't anymore. When your parents pass away and all of a sudden you're on your own, you can't take that huge risk anymore, because if it fails, you might be screwed. And it's a way that Jordan Peterson put it. He's like, you have to pick your sacrifice now, or life will pick it for you later. And it's not exactly what he said, but it's paraphrase a bit, where when you're young and when you have time, you can pick what you want to sacrifice. You can sacrifice. You can go to college for 4 years now to become an engineer, or to become a psychologist, um, become an architect. But later on in life, if your parents aren't around anymore and you only have the money from your minimum wage job coming in, or your job retail, maybe you're a manager, whatever, all of a sudden you can't just choose to quit for 4 years and go to college. You can't do that. You have to keep working. And now life has picked your sacrifice, and your sacrifice is that you'll never get to that higher stage easily. And instead, now you're forced to just work in your whatever job you're at, either maybe rising through the ranks there or whatever. Not that that's bad. If that's something you desire to do, that's good. But all of a sudden, life has picked it for you, and you no longer have that choice, unless you really double down and you really become hard on yourself, which you've already proven you can't do from those years of putting it off. So, what point am I trying to get to here? Because this probably seems like a little bit of a ramble. Is that you have to be willing to give up these hyperstimulants. You have to be willing to be hard on yourself and say, even though it can seem not so dangerous right now to you, playing the video games, watching the porn, doing, eating the junk food, watching all these TV shows and just the newest thing. And, after this next TV show, I'll be done. After this season finale, after this finishes, I'll be done. After this next game comes out, I'll be finished. You won't be. You will not. You're always going to find one more thing. They're always going to design something better, something new that you want. And it's never going to stop for you. Life is never going to get to a point when it's easier to, life's never going to get to a point when it's like, okay, now I can become an adult. Now I can move on. You're forever going to stay in fantasy land. You're forever going to fantasize about a future amazing life. And you're never going to do anything on it if you wait for a time when it's going to be better to act on it. You have to make the choice to get rid of your addictions now. And they are addictions. People don't want to call them that. They don't want to say that they have an addiction to video games. They have an addiction to food. They have an addiction to TV shows and anime and porn and all these things. And it can even be other things, but that main group of things I just mentioned are the hyper-stimulated things that people live in their fantasy worlds in their head and are not willing to confront reality. Because reality is difficult. Reality is hard. But reality is real. And it's real. But people don't want to confront that because they want to stay a child. People want to stay a child. They want to stay a teenager, and they want to keep playing army in their backyard and never confront reality. And it's just, I find it sad seeing people that are willing to live like that, because you've been given a life by God to be able to do almost anything, to just be able to live and see the vastness of His creation, and you're content with just your mediocre nothing that other people have created for you. You're content with just consuming things and just staying blah. And now this is different than being content. There's a difference between being content and being lazy. Being content is just being grateful for what you've been given by God. Being content and being grateful for what you have, and not saying, I need more to be happy. It's being satisfied and being happy with what you've been given. But it's still giving to people. When you're content, you're still giving to others. You're still, you're providing for other people you can. You're helping out people when you can, either by talking, either with money, with your time. Being lazy is just me. What do I want? What can I get? What satisfies my desires? And it's not caring about the other person. It's saying, I want to watch this person on a TV. I want to watch this pornography. I don't care what's happened to her, why she's been put in this situation. I don't care if she's been human trafficked. I don't care, why she's having to do this. I just want the satisfaction from this. I just want my sexual desires to be fulfilled. And it's completely selfish with no regard for the other person. When if you go the route that God intended of being in an actual marriage with another human being, there will be a greater human connection. There is a caring there for the other person. There was a desire to give yourself to that person. And you still fulfill those same sexual desires, but they're not as selfish. It's not being fulfilled in a selfish manner as it is when you just watch pornography. And in that same way, you can equate that to even, let's just say, a video game. Someone wants to be a soldier in a video game and save the world because they want that feeling. I want to be a hero. I want the feeling of being a hero. And I'm just going to stay in my basement and do this, and make believe I'm a hero. Instead of actually being willing to give years of my life to legitimately save people and give them a life where they can fulfill their dreams. So to legitimately give my life to others to save them. It's rooted in selfishness of wanting your own desires fulfilled without giving a damn what happens to anybody else. And I think that's all I have to say on the topic. Just that you need to admit that you have a problem with these things. And you need to take the hard steps to fix it. Because it's never going to get easier. It's only going to get harder the deeper and deeper you dig into this hole. And God didn't give you a life just to waste. I mean, life is so precious. Life is such an amazing gift. If you just stop for a minute and just wonder, how am I experiencing this right now? How am I even seeing? How can I even move my hand? Just being grateful for the life you've been given, being willing to give back. But so many people are just content with being selfish. Just wanting me. More and more of what fulfills their desires. And you don't care about others. And I don't see how many Christians claim to love God but hate His greatest creation. Human beings. They're made in God's image. People are made in God's image, yet if you claim to love God but you hate His greatest creation, like that dichotomy within you, I don't understand that. Because if you truly love God, you should love what He loves. You should love His creation. You should love the things that are righteous and the things that are good. And none of the stuff that's so wicked. But I guess it comes down to many of these people don't actually love God. They love themselves. And they've listened to the devil saying, you can be God. And what you want is what's the thing you should follow. You should follow what you desire. So that's all I have for you today. I hope this can be a bit of a wake-up call for you. And Lord willing, I'll see you all later.